Hi everybody. Today I'm going to talk to you about this, MapleWiFi and their mobile internet service that they provide to Canadians. We're going to go over features, advantages, benefits, also the trade-offs, compromises, things you should know before diving into it. It's all based on my own experiences, my own feedback, my own talking points. I am an affiliate of theirs. I did sign up after becoming a fully paying customer, which I still am to this day. But again, all the speaking points here are my own. All right, we got all that stuff out of the way. Let's dive into it. Okay, who is MapleWiFi? What are they all about? Well, if I had to describe them, I think I would say they are an up-and-coming mobile internet service provider for Canadians. That sounded pretty good. We'll go with that. Mobile, in the sense it's wireless. It uses a battery. You can go anywhere. You can go in your car, you can go to the beach, go in the bathroom if you want. You can really go anywhere. That's not to say it can't be wired. You can take a cable and plug it into it, and all of a sudden it's wired. You can keep it at home as well. But that's really not what they're after. That's not the space that they're really competing in. It's not meant to compete with high-speed cable, as an example. It works off the cellular network. So it works off LTE, just like your cell phone would, except it works off the major three networks in Canada: Rogers, Bell, TELUS. It is a mobile router. It's a hotspot. So this really can light up the entire house for sure. Again, good for people who don't have high-speed cable or like fiber optic internet options in their home. So it's really a unique product, I think. I found it when I was looking for an internet service provider for my RV. So we have an RV. We travel throughout the summers, and I wanted something that's really high speed, something that's mobile, that can travel with me, and ideally something without contracts, right? Because I'm in Canada. I can't RV all year, and I'm not going to be replacing my home internet with it. I have high speed internet here at home already, so I was ideally looking for something that didn't bind me to a contract. So it was a tough wish list that I had, and I stumbled across MapleWiFi because it was really the one that didn't have any compromises. It checked all the boxes. Let's go into the features and advantages next. All right, so here I've got a list of the top 5 features and benefits of MapleWiFi by my definition. These are really the top 5 that I chose, and they were really the ones that were on my wish list, which is when I said they check all the boxes. These are really the boxes, but they're also the ones that I think make them the most competitive in the market. Starting off with mobile and versatility. So I know I've spoke about this already, but it's wireless. I could put it in my pocket if I want to. That's a little bit weird, but how about my bag? I can go in my bag. I can go in the vehicle. I can go in the RV. Like I said, I've taken it to the beach. A lot of competitors, they call themselves mobile because they work off the cellular network like this one does, except they require an antenna mounted outside. That's not really mobile unless you're going to bring a huge antenna with you somehow, some way. It's not mobile. This is truly mobile. You can wire an antenna to it. We'll talk more about that in a bit, but you really don't have to. The cable that I showed you earlier, that's a power cable. That's the charge of the battery. It has a battery. So it's a really big deal, I think, and something to consider. Again, depends on your usage of it. Number next is national coverage. So nationwide coverage. And by that, yes, I mean coast to coast across Canada. I've personally used it in BC, Quebec, Ontario. But I know it works across Canada because it leverages those big 3 partner networks that I mentioned: Bell, TELUS, and Rogers. Really, you can look at it and say, if anything's going to have wireless coverage, this will have it too, because it's using all their networks. There are some spaces that don't have access to cellular networks at all, and this won't either. It's no exception. The only real technology that might work there is satellite internet, but again, then you sacrifice mobility. So I think this has the most coverage and the most mobility that you can really find. Next is unlimited data. Lots of ISPs, internet service providers, advertise unlimited data. But what does that mean? Yes, you can actually use as much as you want, but pay attention to their fine print, because a lot of them throttle the data once you meet a certain threshold. So for example, it might say unlimited data, but up, and then after 25 gigs per month, it'll drop down the speed. It'll throttle it to a much lower speed, which doesn't make it unusable, but it makes it unusable for a lot of different use cases. You really can't be streaming videos or working remotely or anything at that point. Can you check emails? Sure. This is actually unlimited, for real. But no throttling, no slowdowns, no overage fees, nothing. It's actually purely unlimited. You never have to worry about how much data you're consuming, which is really a luxury that we've gotten used to at home. When I'm camping or traveling, I don't want to have to think about it. I really don't. And, I've got 2 young kids, and sometimes it's a rainy day. And sometimes Netflix keeps them quiet. High speeds, again, Netflix, YouTube. You can stream multiple devices from this thing. It really depends on the signal strength, of course. But, when I had just 2 bars of signal, I was getting between 20 and 30 megabits per second download and over 5 megabits per second up. Again, it's not going to compete with the 400 megabits per second download that I get here at my home through cable, but it's a lot better than my cell phone, I can tell you that much. And it is adequate. It is enough. I've worked remotely from it using Teams with cameras on, screen sharing, all that stuff, and it is it's fine. It does everything I need it to do. Even with 1 bar, there's, it got a little spotty, but I have a solution, a workaround for that really helped me, and I'll talk about that in just a minute. But high speeds, that was an important one, and you certainly get it here. The highest you can really get out of cellular network. And finally, no contract. It really is month to month. You buy the device and you pay for your first month when you order it. From there, really, ball's in your court. You can turn it off whenever you want and reactivate it whenever you want. No penalties, nothing like that. No costs, no startup fees when you reactivate it. You just send them an email and say, hey, can you turn this off for now? I did it. This is actually turned off currently as we speak. And I'll be turning it on again probably next month. Fingers crossed. But it really is a month-to-month service, which is really beneficial, like I said, for people who are using it seasonally, or just, if that makes it easier for you to dive into it. It's less of a commitment. You don't have to sign up for a year, 2 years, or face penalties if you do want to opt out of it. So that flexibility is real nice, again, especially if you are having it as kind of a secondary connection. It's really beneficial. So these are some of the features and benefits. There is one that's not here. They do have a 7-day return policy. So if you do sign up for it and you test it out, it doesn't work out the way you want it to, you can return it and they'll give you your money back even for the device. You get it all back. It's really no risk. Okay, now that we covered that, let's go into the shadow side and talk about some of the challenges you might see. Okay, so let's dive into some of the considerations or trade-offs that you should be aware of before you sign up for MapleWiFi. Number 1 is their support contact channels. If you need help or you need to speak to somebody at MapleWiFi, you can only email them at the time of filming this video. There's no chat option. There's no phone call option. It's email. There have been a few cases that I can think of where I've had to contact them, not necessarily for tech support, but more for like account related inquiries or whatnot. And it had to be via email. And unfortunately, there was a bit of a delay. They seem to be getting better. And I think that might just be a growing pain. If depending on when you're watching this video, it might already be resolved. So check out their website and just verify. But at this current period of time, it's email only. So just something to be aware of. Next is limited Wi-Fi range. So this device is a modem and a router built in. Some of you may have that in your homes as well. But the router antennas in this thing are not quite as powerful as what you may have in your home. So the range of Wi-Fi where you can connect to it is a little bit more limited. It'll work fine in a vehicle. It even worked okay in my trailer, my 38-foot trailer, but the signal did get a little bit weaker as you got back into the garage of the trailer or whatnot. So it's not quite the same as a residential router. You can actually connect a residential router to it, depending on your usage. Obviously, you're not going to do that on the road, but if you're using it at your home or you're using it in a trailer and you have power, you can actually connect this to a residential router if you get the right hotspot. So at this time, MapleWiFi has 2 different hotspots. I'll check out their website and their hardware availability. What you're looking for is you're looking for an Ethernet port on the bottom of the router. And if it has that, then that means it will allow you to connect it to a residential router. And then you're basically using this as a modem. And so that's really what you're going to look for. And at that point, if you've done that, then your issues with Wi-Fi range are fully resolved. The other side of it is cellular reception. So there's also antennas inside this machine to pick up a cellular network. Now, if you don't have cellular connection, you have no internet. There's nothing can really change that. However, there have been many cases where I would have just 1 bar of connection with this thing. And like I said earlier, the speeds and reliability were a little bit spotty in that case. There are options as well to help you out with that. Now, some of you may be aware of cellular boosters, and I'm not even recommending that path. Depending on the hardware that you get, once again, through MapleWiFi, pay special attention to the device that you choose. And if you get one that can connect external antennas to it, so I just took these 2 tabs off, so you can see here, they're called TS9 connectors, and allows you to hook up an external antenna. The one I ended up getting, I just grabbed it off Amazon. It's the one that's shown here on the screen. It's a suction cup mount. You can mount it to the back of your laptop. I just suction it to the windows of the trailer, and it's a much more powerful antenna. That boosted my signal, and I went from 1 bar up to 2 or 3, and was back in like the 30 megabits per second download and 5 megabits per second upload range, right? Which made it fully usable. A night and day difference by connecting one of these antennas when you have lower coverage. If you already have like full bars or close to it, you don't need to hook that up. It doesn't hurt, but you really don't need it. Just make sure that you, if you are going to be traveling with it and reception might be lower than other spots, consider getting one that can connect one of these antennas. And last but not least, this thing does ship from the US. It arrived from a US-based location, and there are some differences that I noticed in the sense that it thinks that you're in the US. An example would be when I log into Netflix. My catalog is completely different. I'm not seeing Netflix Canada's catalog anymore. I'm seeing Netflix US's catalog. There's some pros and cons there. It's not always bad, but something to keep in mind. And there are workarounds for that as well. You can use a VPN or a virtual private network to basically relocate that and get your Canadian location services back. If it matters, to me, it really didn't make much of a difference. It didn't matter, so I didn't bother. But that is an option that's available to you. So these are really the important considerations that I think you should be aware of prior to signing up for MapleWiFi. Not bad, and again, there are workarounds really for any of these. Okay, so I just want to talk a little bit more about my experience with MapleWiFi as a whole and kind of what I went through and what you can expect if you decide to proceed with it. I'll be honest, when I found it, I was a little skeptical. I'd never heard of them before. There's not a whole lot of information online or reviews to reference. And you've heard the saying, if it walks like a duck and quacks like a duck, it's probably a duck. And that's what I was thinking too. But you know, that wish list that I had, it's really the only service I found that checked all the boxes, and the competitors weren't even close. Like they won by a landslide there. And especially the fact that it was month to month, that was really the big one for me. And again, they were advertising I saw their return policy available on their website. And so if that holds true, I had a bit of a safety blanket. And so I decided to take the leap and order it. You pay for the device up front as well as your first month service, which I had done, and then wait and hope that I didn't just get scammed. And I did not very shortly after. I think before, like less than a day, I got a shipment notification through FedEx. I know FedEx, that's good news, right? Things are looking positive. And sure enough, just a couple days later, it arrived. And it arrives, and I opened up the box and I got the device, a power adapter, and a white USB cable that I showed you earlier. That's it. Okay, so I pushed the button, turned it on, and it worked. That's literally, I didn't even plug it in, so I can't even say it was plug and play. It was just play because it had a charge in the battery already. I do recommend you plug it in, but we'll call it plug and play. But it's got instructions on the screen that showed me how to connect. I connected and it worked. It's interesting. These things have SIM cards in them like a cell phone would. But MapleWiFi takes care of all that for you. So they'll activate the SIM card, they'll install it, they'll set the device up. And by the time you receive it, you turn it on and you use it. So that was a really positive experience. You know what? I can tell you, even the billing, turning it off, like disabling it for the season. I have a second one as well, which I've actually turned back on. I've really put it through all the tests and everything worked as promised. So everything they're saying they would do on their website has held true, which is great news. The only real problem I've had with it is just some light connectivity issues where I just had to turn it off and turn it back on. Troubleshooting 101, which seems to be common with internet devices, I guess, and everything worked fine. So I've got really no issues or nothing to complain about with this. And I'm confident that you would have the same experience. So overall, a very positive experience with them, and I highly recommend them for that purpose. Okay, so who should use MapleWiFi? Who's this meant for? Every business really has target customers, and I don't think their target customer are people who live in the city who have access to those more traditional wired high-speed internet services. It's not who they're competing against. There's no competition really. However, people who are mobile, on the road, RVers, campers, truckers, fleets, delivery people, those people are the ideal customers for this service. Like I said earlier, it can work in your home as well. So if you don't live in a built-up city with wired internet and you don't have access to those fancy pants high-speed internet connections otherwise, this can work. I had a friend of mine try it out, and he hooked this up to his router at home, and this did way better than his Bell system was doing, actually. So it's certainly an option, especially if you run an external antenna. That's even better. So it's certainly an option for those folks. Otherwise, I would focus more, if you're looking at it for mobile use or for camping or seasonal or a secondary connection. So there's a lot of different use cases for it. And if one of those apply to you, I would highly consider signing up for MapleWiFi. If you do want more information about them, you can find it on their website. So you can check out their website. They even have a coverage checker where you can check the network connection to make sure it would work in your location. Feel free to check that out. That's pretty much all I've got for you. I hope this was helpful to you. If it was, once again, please consider signing up using my affiliate code, my referral code, and I'll put that in the video description below. Thank you for watching and for sticking with me, and good luck.